Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a really interesting look at Dr. Anna Lembke's book, Dopamine Nation, Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence.
Yeah, it's quite the read.
Definitely. Our goal here is to kind of unpack how this world we live in, with so much available all the time,
Yeah,
how it can actually lead to stress and feeling down.
right. It's counterintuitive.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to look for ways, practical ways, to find a better balance.
And Dr. Lembke talks about this this widespread feeling of misery almost.
Yeah, she calls it deaths of despair. Rising anxiety, depression, even physical pain sometimes tied to this constant overload.
And it's not just like hardcore addiction she's discussing. It's the everyday stuff too.
Like scrolling endlessly on your phone, or maybe online shopping that gets a bit out of hand, binge-watching shows.
Uh-huh. That kind of compulsive behavior that creeps in.
So how does all this abundance lead to stress? Lemke has this really compelling way of explaining it through our brain chemistry.
It focuses on how our brains handle pleasure and pain. Basically, she says they're processed in the same spot.
Like two sides of a scale, or a teeter-totter.
Exactly like a teeter-totter. And here's the fascinating part. When we keep hitting the pleasure side hard and fast, think about, all the digital dopamine we get 24/7.
Non-stop notifications, yeah.
Right. The brain adapts. It actually starts to, well, turn down the volume on pleasure receptors, or even turn up the pain sides to compensate.
Whoa, so it pushes back.
It pushes back. So after that high, you don't just go back to level, you actually dip below baseline for a bit.
Ah, okay. Leaving you feeling kind of meh, or worse.
Sort of flat or even agitated, yeah. And that feeling makes you want to chase the pleasure again, just to feel normal.
And you need more next time.
You need more. And eventually the simple things, everyday pleasures, they just don't do it for you anymore.
They lose their shine.
Totally. Lemke has this great analogy. She says, we're like cacti in a rainforest. We're just not built for this constant flood. We're drowning in dopamine.
Wow, cacti in a rainforest. That really sticks. Okay, so if our brains are kind of working against us here by adapting, what's the fix? What does she suggest?
Well, it sounds intense, but she often recommends starting with abstinence, what she calls a dopamine fast.
A fast. From dopamine. How does that work?
It's not about cutting out all pleasure. It's about taking a deliberate break from your specific high dopamine habit, your drug of choice, as she puts it.
So if it's social media, you step away from that. If it's sugar, you cut that out.
Exactly. For a set period, often she suggests around 4 weeks, maybe a month.
A whole month. That sounds challenging.
It can be, but the idea is it gives your brain a chance to readapt, to reset that pleasure-pain balance back to level.
To find its baseline again.
Right, to restore homeostasis. And what's really cool is what happens after that reset.
What happened?
Once that balance is level, you can actually start to feel genuine pleasure from simple things again.
Like enjoying a walk or watching a sunset.
Yeah, or just having a nice meal with friends without needing some huge dopamine hit alongside it. You rediscover those simpler joys.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about resensitizing yourself.
Precisely. And there's some compelling evidence. She mentions a study, I think, with daily alcohol drinkers who are also clinically depressed. After just 1 month of not drinking alcohol, something like 80% of them no longer met the criteria for major depression.
80%. Just from stopping drinking for a month.
Yeah. Now, correlation isn't causation, obviously, but it powerfully suggests how much the substance itself was driving the low mood by disrupting that dopamine balance. The brain has this amazing ability to heal itself if we give it a chance.
That really makes you think, doesn't it? Whether your thing is sugar or news or social media, understanding this gives you a path out.
A way to stop the constant chasing and find, real enjoyment again.
So thinking about the takeaway for you listening, it seems finding balance, real joy in this overloaded world is kind of backwards.
It's counterintuitive, like you said earlier.
Yeah. You might actually need to step away from the constant gratification. Let your brain reset so you could appreciate the smaller things again.
And Lemke connects this to a bigger idea, a bit of a paradox.
Which is?
That sometimes setting limits for ourselves, intentionally restricting our choices, that's actually the way to find freedom.
Binding ourselves is a way to be free.
That's the phrase she uses, yeah. In an age of endless options, putting up some fences might be liberating.
Interesting. Binding ourselves to escape the chase.
It frees you from that constant pull, that subtle background misery of always wanting more.
So maybe something to consider. How could creating some intentional space, some boundaries around consumption in your own life.
Mhm.
How might that lead to maybe more freedom and richer experiences?
Definitely something worth reflecting on.